Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be talking about fantasy football quarterbacks. I say we because we got some guests on the channel today in Baskin, as well as two newbies in Brad and Halbert. Both are fantasy enthusiasts. So get excited. If you haven't already liked or subscribed, please do. Share with your friends. That really helps me grow my channel. And I hope you enjoy the video. Hey guys, welcome to our fantasy football talk where we're going to be going over quarterbacks. So, for starters, these are quarterbacks that we're going to put on our radar in 2020. Brad, I think you're up.
All right. So my guy is Tom Brady, and yes, he's obviously the best quarterback ever. But in fantasy, he's not always that way. He's coming off his worst season that he's ever had, besides maybe like 2002. And he's going to a new team, new scheme, right? So it's a new environment. But with that new environment comes new offensive weapons, such as Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Cameron Brate, Gronk is back. They always do good together. And a good offensive line with Ryan Jensen and Tristan Wirfs, who they just drafted. And the upside there with no running game, which they had in New England. I think they'll throw the ball a lot with Bruce Arians, obviously a quarterback guru. I think they'll throw the ball a lot more than he did in New England, and I think he'll have a good season, fantasy-wise.
Great. I'll just throw something in. I slightly disagree too. I just think he doesn't really fit that kind of offense that Bruce Arians likes. Brady's not that deep ball passer. Yes, he can throw the deep ball. Any NFL quarterback can throw the deep ball, but that's not what he specializes in. And I just question if he has that running game there in Tampa Bay that's really going to help him. So I don't think Tom Brady's going to be your starting quarterback. Maybe he is a number 2 quarterback that you can sit on your bench, but I wouldn't count on him as a starter.
Yeah, I'll give my opinion real quick too. I think Tom Brady, he's definitely going to have a better season than last year, but I think people shouldn't get their hopes too high because Jameis Winston, he threw all those picks in that offense, and I feel that offense, I think Brady will have more picks than he may have ever had in his career this season because I think Brady, he will play better than Jameis Winston, but he'll play more similar to Jameis Winston than we think he will, and I think he could have 20 or 18 interceptions in that offense. So I think Tom Brady will easily have a better year, but there will obviously be some regression in his throw power and other parts of his game. So I don't know if he's a starting quarterback in fantasy this year either.
Just to counter what Adam said, if you look back at the 2007 season when he had Randy Moss and Wes Welker, he threw the deep ball a lot. So
he's a little bit older now.
It is, yes, he is 13 years older and post ACL a while ago, but we'll see.
So that's great. Now we're going to move on to one of my favorite players, Josh Allen. Baskin, take it away.
Okay, so Josh Allen is my sleeper quarterback for fantasy this year. And for me, he would be a starter, maybe even in fantasy this year, because I really do love that Bills offense. And I love it because of that Bills defense as well. I think that the offense, they're going to get on the field a lot because I think that Bills defense is going to be top 5 in elite defense this year. And picking up Stephon Diggs for a first-round pick, in my opinion, that was a steal for a late first-round pick. I think Stephon Diggs will have a better year than Justin Jefferson or whoever the Eagles got, freaking Jalen Reagor. Horrible pick. That's a story for another day, Alex. But I think Josh Allen, with that offense, with Devin Singletary taking the next step this year, Dalton Knox, John Brown is still a great deep threat. And I think Josh Allen could be – I don't think he'll win an MVP this year, but I think he could win Most Improved Quarterback this year. And I really do like him as a fantasy quarterback for the 2020-2021 NFL season.
I absolutely agree with you. I love Josh Allen this year. I think he could be awesome for all the reasons that you said. Also, he's got that great running game. Devin Singletary had, I think, 775 yards last season and 2 touchdowns, and he was injured for a little bit, so he's going to increase that production. And he got Zach Moss from Utah. So I think with that strong running game, and also Allen, he's one of those quarterbacks that can do it all. He can run the ball with his legs, he can throw the ball. He's one of the most powerful arms in the league. So I think he's just all over the place. And if he can get that completion percentage up, if he can get it above around 60%, he could be a really, really solid quarterback, especially in fantasy leagues. I like him as a top quarterback this season.
Another thing to note, he has, I think, more rushing touchdowns than Saquon since they were both drafted. So another production that you get from him.
Yeah, he does. He has that rushing game, which I think also adds on. He's no Lamar Jackson, but he still has some jets.
Moving on to Halbert's pick here, none other than Drew Lock.
Okay. I like Drew Lock a lot. He did good last year, but what I really like is they drafted Jerry Jeudy. I personally thought he was the best wide receiver in the draft. And Courtland Sutton, he stepped up a lot last year. I think he'll do even better this year. So the two good receivers. But also they got Melvin Gordon. And Melvin Gordon, he's just a good player. Like Phillip Rivers, when he was on the Chargers, Phillip Rivers, he always used Melvin Gordon. I think Drew Lock, he's still developing, and that'll help him a lot. And also, there's a little jab at Baskin. They play the Chiefs, who twice a year, so they're going to be throwing a lot, and that could help him. And then, but the Broncos, I don't think they're going to be winning games, but I think Drew Lock, he'll have a very good fantasy season and a good developing season.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with Alex about winning games. I think the Broncos will have a decent season, possibly contend for a wild card. But I think Drew Lock, we got to pump the brakes. I'm a huge Bronco fan, but I think Drew Lock, he'll have maybe a slightly above average season this year. But I don't know if he's a starting quarterback in fantasy just yet. I think right now I would draft him as a backup, and possibly he has good potential to do well as the season goes on this year.
Yeah, I agree with Baskin, especially with the winning games, because they add a lot of pieces to their defense, which could take the pressure off of Lock and allow him to, sit back in the pocket, not have to throw deep every play and just get yards, get points.
Great. So now we move on to none other than Dak Prescott. I love Dak Prescott. He threw for 4,900 yards last season, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. And look at all those weapons there in Dallas. He's got, obviously, Zeke in the running game, but Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb with that awesome O-line. Dak is going to explode. He was already a top quarterback last season. Stop hating on Dak. He's awesome. He could possibly win MVP. That might be a little bit of a stretch. But he's a really good fantasy option. He's got all those weapons. He's got a lot of playmakers there in Dallas, and I think he could really excel in Dallas this season.
I'd say just one quick caution with Dak. I mean, he could hold out. You could see a Melvin Gordon, Le'Veon Bell situation this year. So just be careful. Be watching the news as you're drafting your team, because I could see something fishy going on there in Jerry's world. And
I think he'll have a good season, but I don't think he'll have top 3, and that's where people are drafting him. I think of him as number 6, maybe somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But I think he'll do fine, but I think he's being drafted too high this year, especially because of the contract issue. He might not play at the beginning if it's still a problem.
Yeah. Also, think to note, he doesn't have Jason Witten anymore, who had 10 catches a game sometimes last year. So with that production gone, he may dip a little. But I think he'll still be good.
Okay. So that's great. Let's move on to the players that we do not like. We're going to try and hurry this thing up and maybe keep one comment after each. So starting with Brad, we have Teddy Bridgewater.
All right. So he's on a new team with not as many weapons as he had last year when he, came in and won 5 games straight and had a good 5-game stretch. He has DJ Moore, who's a great, receiver that's going to be great soon. But I don't know if he's enough to be in a wide receiver 1 yet. He also has Curtis Samuel, who, again, is kind of, a backup that I don't know if could be a wide receiver 2, but we'll have to see. Greg Olson's gone, so he doesn't have that safety valve. And he has McCaffrey, who they're going to want to run to a lot and probably dump the ball off to, but I just don't think he's going to have enough production out of just those 3 alone.
So I want to disagree and agree with you at the same time. So firstly, I think he has all the weapons he's going to need. He has the best running back in the league. You can't ask for more than that. And I could argue that he has better receivers in Carolina than he did in New Orleans last season. Yes, he obviously had Michael Thomas last season, but other than that, he didn't really have anyone else. Jared Cook is a kind of a questionable player at the tight end position. But if you look in Carolina, he's got 3 legit receivers in DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, as well as Curtis Samuel. So I think he's got a lot of options. For me, it's going to be that O-line and maybe that tight end position, and that's going to hold him back. So I don't think he's a number 1 or number 2 quarterback, but he might be that 3rd quarterback maybe you can pick up in after the draft. And he has a ton of upside. So look for Teddy Bridgewater. Now we go to Matt Ryan.
Okay, so with Matt Ryan, I was taking the same logic as like Phillip Rivers or other quarterbacks where Matt Schaub or other quarterbacks at that age where you start to see them kind of regress a little. And I think Matt Ryan, he's been very solid in fantasy the last few years, but he's definitely been going downhill since that MVP-like season where he led the Falcons to the Super Bowl. And I think we should pump the brakes a little bit on Matt Ryan because I could see kind of a downfall with that Falcons team. And I just think this season for the Falcons, I think it could be a downhill season. I think they may not have their coach for half the season because I pretty much see Dan Quinn getting fired. So I don't know if I like Matt Ryan this year as a fantasy quarterback. Possibly, I think he'd be a fine backup, but not as a starter.
And to add to that, I agree with that idea that he shouldn't be a starter. But where he's being drafted in those early to mid hundreds in your average draft, I think you can get better quarterbacks. You can get Drew Brees around there. I think you can get Josh Allen around there. You can probably get Aaron Rodgers around there as well as Matthew Stafford. So there's other options where Matt Ryan's being drafted for you to pick up someone that might be more of a difference maker. And now we get to the controversial one.
Let's go. Okay, so can I start off? Tom Brady, he is a great quarterback. He's arguably the best of all time, but
he is the best of all time.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue that.
I'm a Dolphins fan, and I'm saying he's the best of all time.
But spent all of that under Bill Belichick, and he's not there anymore. And even though he does have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, Tom Brady, he loves the slants to Edelman. He loves the short passes. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, they both have deep threats. Even though he still has Gronk, he was off for a little bit.
The Patriots, they had the #1 defense last year. I know it didn't look like that maybe in the playoffs or at the end of the year, but I think the Tampa Bay defense is definitely not as good. So
it's not as good, but
I think Tom Brady's interception numbers could definitely go up this year, which could fault him as a fantasy quarterback.
Brady just he's a risky quarterback too. Yes, he has upside, but at that age, I'm just really, really concerned about one, how his body's gonna hold up, as well as just what's he gonna look like in a new scheme. I'm just worried about that. So finally, on to our last quarterback we're going to talk about is Ryan Tannehill. I do not think that Ryan Tannehill is going to keep up that impressive streak that he had last season. Last season, I believe he threw for 22 touchdowns, 2,700 yards, and 6 interceptions, which made him one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. However, that 4-year, $118 million contract it's not going to hold up, I think. I think Tannehill is going to struggle. Firstly, he doesn't have the best receiving options. Yes, I know A.J. Brown is a legit fantasy wide receiver, but I don't think he's going to be as good this season. I don't think Jonnu Smith is going to be nearly as good as people are going to make him out to seem this year, as well as Corey Davis is just not a good wide receiver in Tennessee, and Humphreys in the slot is your average slot receiver. So I do not like what Tannehill is going to do next year. I don't think he's going to be able to keep that level of production up. So I'd be wary about drafting Tannehill.
I agree strongly with what Adam's saying. First of all, the Jack Conklin loss is big, but my main concern is Tannehill. His most similar player comparison to him is Nick Foles. They're both players who they're very spotty. They can perform under pressure occasionally. I mean, Foles had that 2013 season. He had 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That's very similar to what Tannehill did last year, probably even better. Foles led his team to a Super Bowl, but he's an iffy quarterback. It's just like Ryan Fitzpatrick. They're okay starting quarterbacks. They're good in certain moments, but you're not gonna trust them every year, and they're not gonna produce continued success. So I completely agree with what Adam just said.
Now that you've reached the end of my video, I want to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe as it helps my channel out, and check out my other videos on my channel. Also, you can follow my Instagram. The link is in the description down below, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, see ya.